Me exposing the Christianity versus astrology debate.
Tell us about now. How did you meet God? Where was that experience at, and what took place there?
I was on the kitchen floor and it was daytime, and I was like in my gym clothes. Like it's like such a vivid memory. And Psalm 42:7 says, "Deep calls out to deep." I didn't know why I said this, but that verse explains why.
I constantly see a post about an ex-astrologer that has met Jesus. Anyone that has read my first Tumblr post can see how I mentioned having to deal with lots of Christians who went against astrology in my journey. What I didn't mention was that I would always win those debates. Although I barely read the Bible or knew anything in it, I had to find a mechanism to prove astrology is legit so obviously. I then had to study lots of inaccuracies within the Bible, Old or New Testament, but this video is focusing on the New Testament and Jesus. Well, first, Jesus came from a Jewish sect that used to study astrology and implement it into their lives. This Jewish sect is known as the Essenes. They lived in many places but frequently occupied the Judean desert or the Dead Sea, hence why mainly the Dead Sea Scrolls talked about them. It was a part of their routines to study the cycles of the moon. My own personal beliefs are that they knew what the ascendant or rising sign was. Acts chapter 2 kinda referred to this daily routine. Pay attention to the 9 o'clock statements. Compare what historian Josephus had said about the Essenes and that act verse. 9 o'clock is important. I can't remember how it goes, but I think the ascendant or rising sun is most visible at that time. Anyone into astrology already knows the ascendant or the first house deals with body structure, skin color, etc. Well, the Essenes knew this so they would determine things like if someone will grow up to have a patchy beard. They had a serious infatuation with the moon in Taurus, because they thought that would be a great time for money to flow greatly in Israel. I could be wrong, maybe it's them using the sun sign like how many use it today. For example, I made a video on this, but if you look at someone that has a sidereal sun Taurus, you would notice their face or head shape looks very similar to that of a bull. On the flip side, the Essenes use terms like the foot of the bull. What comes to my mind when I hear that are constellations and nakshatras, but who truly knows? The Essenes had their own calendar and holidays, even that was separate amongst the common Israeli. Jesus was actually the leader of this communist-like Jewish sect called Essenes. Jesus' position was a guardian or a master, which meant that he had full control over an organization that studied astrology. The guardian used to train new members of the Essenes disciples. This means Jesus taught astrology as well. As you can imagine, this organization is very similar to Freemasonry, since it was mainly guys and barely any women were a part of this Jewish sect. Of course, the New Testament diminishes this Jewish sect a lot, seemingly because Apostle Paul took over and wanted to change the narrative. Paul even dissed vegans and called them weak. The Essenes were strict vegans. Note the Pharisees didn't question Jesus because he ate meat. They questioned why he didn't follow the tradition of washing hands for a meal. Jesus' interpretation was that if the food is clean, then his dirty hands won't make the food a person eats unclean. Jesus was questioned by the Pharisees because he wasn't a part of that sect. Definitely he wasn't a Sadducee because Essenes were poor. Historians like Josephus mention Jesus' disciples like John the Baptist being an Essene. You may have read about Jesus protesting in a temple. The Essenes were against sacrificing animals. You know what they did in the temples? They sacrificed animals. Jesus may have came across as a vigilante. It's because supposedly one of his proteges was the owner of a protesting Jewish sect called the Zealots. Although I can't confirm if that's the Judas discussed in the Bible. or if Jesus was affiliated with that organization. It's worth noting though because the Essenes were supposed to be docile, but their master Jesus seemed very forceful at times. Follow me on the other apps. I'm out.